Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of RantER. And honestly, when I first started the series, the game itself wasn't in that great of a state. Well, it was actually getting better, right? Because we started this about halfway through season 7. But now we're in the opening of season 8, and this game is fun. Let me just tell you that straight off the bat right now. A lot of people were a little bit skeptical when they saw the battlefield system, or the battle zone system. I guess that's the more official name of this thing. But after playing the preseason so far, we've been in preseason for about a week now for season 8. It is freaking fun, let me tell you. I have been loving the battle zone system for season 8, and the game itself as a whole, in my opinion, has just gotten way better. Um, in a lot of posts, I believe there was one on Reddit that I kind of responded to. I've also been telling a couple other people this in Discord as well. But season 8, in my opinion, just looking at it as a whole before the season even dropped for me was kind of like a machine where we were adding a ton of cogs to make the machine work. But the question was whether or not all of those cogs fit in the correct spot and made sure that it actually kind of worked as it was supposed to, right? Looking at preseason right now, I can relatively say that it actually has. Now, there is a little bit of caveat to this, where it's much more focused, in my opinion, towards the team mode aspect of this game more so than solos, but I'll get into that later. But yeah, overall, Season 8 has been absolutely amazing. But, that's just a little bit of an intro, more so than the actual topics of this video. But I guess it's somewhat relevant because we're just going to be talking about some stuff that's going to be happening here in Preseason 8, as well as things that have been happening, I think, in the past couple of weeks. So it's going to be a little bit of a mix of RantER as well as current events kind of thing, but I'm just going to kind of put this under the umbrella of RantER because I'll be talking about a lot of things. So let's get started here. The first topic is going to be the season itself and what in my opinion has been so great about it, some things that maybe could get changed a little bit, and maybe some other thoughts that I could be thinking up of just, either on the spot or maybe things that I remember from before. To begin, before I talk about the battle zones, first I would like to, just say a sincere thank you to all the community members who's been hosting custom lobbies nowadays for preseason 8 because rank doesn't really pop in the international regions for the preseasons times. And the fact that we have all these community members doing these custom lobbies, like Circadia has been hosting a lot of squad customs lately and also streaming it as well, which makes it even better, I guess, in a way. And I know there's also been some solo ones happening recently. I just don't know who's actually hosting them. So if you guys could let me know down in the comments below, that would be amazing. But these customs really allow us to kind of experiment with these battle zones in a little bit more of a competitive format than what we would normally see in normal games. So again, thank you to all the community members who has been doing that. But first, to begin off, I think one of the greatest things about the battle zones are three different things. First is the fact that aggressive characters or characters that can snowball early versus passive characters who need to kind of scale into the late game both benefit from the system. Now, that might not be the case when you look at it from the outside point of view. You're like, oh, battle zones, You go there, you fight a bunch of people, get weapon mastery, and then you get a mythic item if you really want to, assuming you win, and you just snowball the entire lobby, right? But that is not the case. Aggressive players, yes, you can have the opportunity to snowball like that. You definitely do, but it's very controlled thanks to the work that Nimble Neuron has been doing. And thanks to that, passive characters actually also benefit from battle zones as well. You could, of course, as a passive character, just take your chances and go to the battle zone. Sometimes you might come out with a win, but other than that, a lot of characters in this game are in the what you would call quote unquote good state for Eternal Return right now, which means you can snowball very early on and continue that snowball, and that means a lot of people are attracted to the battle zones. What that means for passive characters is that the map itself opens up. So a lot of androids get uncontested, especially during day number 2. Alpha very, I think is more of a rare thing to see people actually contesting for it. Usually there's like 1 or 2 people and that's it, while everyone else is in the battle zones. And because the map is so open, animals are also very much readily available for people as well. So characters like Nadine can start stacking a lot early on, even if the amount of stacks that you gain has decreased thanks to I think it was one of the hotfixes recently. But at the same time, other characters outside of Nadine, like for example Lee Dai-Lin, who is a powerhouse in the late game that still needs to scale, has the time to do so, even if they might not be doing it in the most effective way possible. Of course, just by like continuously farming, similarly to Nadine, you can still get there pretty consistently as long as these battle zones are a thing. So again, the main point of this point is the simple fact that aggressive characters or characters that need to snowball, as well as passive characters that need to scale, both benefit out of the system. Now, the second point of the battle zones that I think make it amazing is the fact that mythics are not too strong as of right now. Now, when I was looking at the dev stream and I was kind of talking about it, I was really worried that the mythic items were going to be very, very strong, but that is honestly not the case in my opinion as of right now. Mythic items are absolutely amazing, but they're amazing in the fact that they're very unique in how they are utilized. They're not too overly reliant on stats, and those effects, the active effects, are not amazingly too strong either. They're very controlled, they're very unique, but at the same time, it's not too overwhelming to the players that do not have access to them, which makes the mythic items that comes out of battle zones not a mandatory requirement for you to win a game. And that's the reason why, as I mentioned earlier, this also kind of feeds into the previous one, that passive characters that need to scale also benefit, since they still have a chance going up against characters that may have snowballed from the battle zones, that also may have gotten the mythic, that normally when you think about a new tier of items you think, oh my god, those things are really, really broken. But it does not seem like that. The mythics are very controlled, and it makes it so that there's a whole nother aspect to the game, but it doesn't make it the only aspect in the game that you need to be worrying about compared to everything else. Now, the last part, I think this is a little bit more of a generic thing for players across the board, is that I think battle zones have really set steps in how the game is supposed to be played out, more so than before. And what I mean by this is that a lot of people who start playing Eternal Return, one of the biggest questions that I get in regards to how to get better is, what do I do after I finish my build? And that is a very good question. It's very difficult to answer because of how Eternal Return is so open-ended after you finish your regular build. But Battle Zones makes it clear that there are objectives at certain points of the game, and it really sets like a deadline as to when you need to be done with this, this, and this, which really, I think, in my opinion, as long as players that start playing the game makes a little bit more of an effort to start understanding all the mechanics in the game, it'll be a very good foundation as to teach them, after this, you get this, which is like, after you finish your build, you get the battle zones, or you get the android, and then after that, you get the tree of lives. And compared to the objectives that spawn like, Tree of Life and Meteorite, I think the battle zones are much more of a clear indicator, because you can actually like see a lot more of it when you start moving around the map, more so than those previous objectives. And I just overall think that battle zones, even if new players can't take full advantage of it since they're still trying to learn the game, is a very good thing that allows people to have a much more rigid plan going into the game, more so than an open-ended one, which a lot of people do tend to struggle up against, and that also includes me as well. So I'm very happy about the battle zones in and of itself, and it's just more of like a checkpoint mark for me, if I have to say, more so than anything, just kind of keeping track of, oh, am I behind, am I ahead? So overall, battle zones are absolutely amazing for pretty much every single player across the board, whether you're a new player, whether you're a veteran player, whether you're a aggressive character player or a scaling style of player. I think every single one of those characters or players can benefit off of him, which is one of the reasons why I absolutely love the way that preseason has been going so far. Now, of course, this is only during the preseason, which is kind of surprising because the system working amazingly in preseason is, I think this is like the first time that that has happened for me in Eternal Return. But, it's looking good. It's definitely looking good. Okay, at least we got one big part out of the way, because of course when it comes to talking about the season so far, the battle zone mechanic is going to be the big thing, but now we go into a little bit more about the future of the game, right? Because we've got some interesting news recently in regards to some of our future content that's going to be coming up. First of all, let's talk about Theodore. Now, I'll include the video for Theodore's preview over at the top right of the video in that little card thing, so make sure you guys go check it out. But we have gotten the video in regards to what Theodore is going to look like so far. Now, of course, we've kind of expected this coming from a long way, since we've gotten pictures of Theodore for quite a while now, as well as some like kind of tidbits in regards to what he's actually going to be like. But, you know, just looking at him as well, you can kind of predict this. He is going to be a sniper rifle character. Now, I've heard a lot about how people have been comparing him to like a lot of different league champions because his skills are very similar in regards to how they might function in that way, and I also do agree with that at the same time. But of course, that's one thing that we are just not going to be able to figure out until we actually see Theodore in the game, or at least when we get the kit reveal of him as well. Just seeing some of these graphics, of course, does help in regards to theorizing, or at least visualizing what Theodore wants to do and what he's going to be doing. But what he's actually going to be doing, of course, is going to be completely different. But I think one big part about Theodore that we really can take away here is the simple fact that this character is genuinely support oriented, right? There's a lot of interactions that he can do with a lot of different characters in his team, because I mean, a lot of people have been saying wind wall, wind wall, wind wall. Don't know how it's going to work, but assuming it does, it of course benefits Theodore in one way, but it also benefits his teammates in another way as well. And looking at, I think that might be his ultimate right there, the graphic that we're, the skill that we're seeing on screen that I'll probably edit in later. Looks something like a movement speed increase over a zone that he'll set over time. And of course, you know, sorry again for comparing this to League, but it feels a little bit more like a premeditated Kled ultimate, right, where you just kind of run people down, you get an increased movement speed in that zone while you're following that specific area that you get, and you're able to chase down people a lot faster, which to me, looking at him right now, kind of orients him to be that supporter style character. Now, this doesn't mean that Theodore most likely won't be solos viable. He theoretically could be, but looking at the preview, of course, you know, he just interacts well with his teammates. He can support, he can help, he can buff them here and there as well. And then he has some laser shenanigans that I don't exactly know how that's going to work later down the road as well. But overall, Theodore, a very cool character. And again, check out the Theodore preview if you already haven't, because that preview was filmed pretty well, in my opinion, for what it is. And yeah, that should be it when it comes to Theodore. Now we've been getting some small information. I think it was like on social media about some of our other characters that's going to be releasing. I think like Leanne was another character that we got teased a little bit, but the amount of information that we have on any future characters is pretty minimal. So I'm going to skip out on that for now. But one small takeaway from this as well, on top of Theodore, is the fact that during Season 8, we're only going to be having 3 character releases, so don't look forward to like Leanne, I would say, for a couple of weeks here. I don't think they're going to be putting Leanne or any of the other characters that's going to be releasing in Season 8 just like all at the front, and then saying, you know, for the rest of the season, you guys don't have any more new characters. So I would say after Theodore, give it a couple weeks, give it a few weeks for Leanne to start getting a little bit more information out. And of course, when that actually happens, I'll be right here to give you guys all the information that at least I have when it comes down to it. One last thing that I want to cover before I end this video is just like quick esports information in regards to Season 8 for the Asian server. It says in the post as well that they'll keep us updated in regards to the international stuff, so we don't have to worry about that. But really quickly here, as you can see, we're going to have 2 solos tournaments this season and 2 team tournaments this season. But for the teams tournament, they're going to make a roster update for all the team modes where during season 7 and pretty much all the previous seasons as well, it was a kind of like an option to choose between 2 or 3 members in your team, but now they're going to make it a mandatory 3. And the reason behind this is because they want to try opening up windows for squads events in case anything outside of ERM, so like the lower tier tournaments, in case they want to host squads tournaments, they'll be able to host it without having issues of bringing in a random player just to fill out the squads team for all the teams that may have only 2 teams on there. Now, I'm not exactly sure right now if I'm going to be the official caster because I haven't really gotten much information outside of this post in and of itself. But of course, if I am, then that's going to be amazing because I'm super excited about the Korean esports for the season. And in general, I think this season in and of itself is going to be really awesome for all kinds of tournaments that are going to be happening throughout every single region, not just KR, of course. One last thing as well, information on the Season 8 finals. All of the dates for ERM as well as the Season 8 finals, they can all change, especially for Season 8 finals since they're looking for a venue right now. But still, pretty nice thing that we're going to be having here, at least going into Season 8. Okay, that should most likely kind of sum up all the things that I wanted to talk about, at least for this episode of RantER. Now, it's not exactly your typical style of episode, of course. Again, I mentioned it at the beginning of this video, but it's more of a compilation of a couple other things as well. But hopefully, this was a little bit more informative to you guys, and also for me as well, just kind of experiencing Preseason 8 as a whole. It's been really nice just being able to, think about how the battle zone is going to affect the whole thing and just seeing the results of our anticipation as well has been really nice. But of course, in the end, what really matters is you guys. Just let me know down in the comments below what you guys currently think of the preseason, if you've been playing it, or if you haven't and you want to start playing it again, maybe why you might want to start playing it again. Because I know a lot of people that I haven't been seeing in the ER community starting to come back. That's the kind of like the attraction that I think this preseason has been really showing to a lot of other players as well. So definitely feel free to come back in. The game has been adding a lot more quality of life things compared to before, so I think it's a great time to come in here and just enjoy your heart out while you're playing in the battle zones, as well as dealing with the after effects of it, I suppose. Thank you guys so much for watching, of course, and I'll see you guys at the next episode of RantER, or for me, of course, just whatever video that I decide to upload whenever that might be. So I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.